We're here in Atlanta, Georgia, in the wee hours of February 1st, 2008. This is a day after John Edwards dropped out of the race, and I didn't get to catch the debates earlier tonight due to a lack of funds for a lack of cable. So I can't really talk about exactly what went down and what didn't. What I'm pretty sure of, though, is that Obama and Hillary's ideology and plans are quite similar, and I'm equally sure that they're really not all that different from what we would consider to be the Republican side of the spectrum either. And I think that it's very important that we look at the finer details of Mr. Obama first, rather than just listen to his very lovely and very flowery speeches about change and how he's the man to bring it and how it's going to sweep across Washington like some kind of proverbial hurricane or natural disaster or what have you. But in all honesty, there's nothing that should lead us to believe anything of the sort. For instance, Barack Obama, when speaking to the editors at the Reno Gazette, stated quite plainly that he was an open admirer of the policies of Ronald Reagan, which is very surprising for someone who gets painted by the mainstream media as leftist, and certainly gets painted by the right-wing fringe of the mainstream media, O'Reilly, Limbaugh, etc., as radical leftist ultra. But he said that he liked Reagan, and that Reagan had done great things by cutting the excesses of the 1960s and 70s, and that America was ready for such changes. But in all honesty, the cuts that Reagan made in social programs, while at the same time, vastly increasing the fundage for military programs such as the Star Wars debacle, really, it's not seen as desirable by the public, according to any public research institute, in particular public research, Gallup polls, etc., and indicate that the public wants more money for social funds. The public wants more money for poor people. The public wants this, and that's not questionable at all. What is questionable is how Barack Obama, this is a direct quote from his book. He said there are seeds of anarchy in the idea of individual freedom and intoxicating danger and the idea of equality. For if everybody is truly free without the constraints of birth or rank or inherited social order, how can we ever hope to form a society that coheres? That does not sound like the kind of rhetoric that you would really want to hear from someone espousing themselves to be the harbinger of change that's going to bring about this wave of freedom and deviation from the previous years of quasi-tyranny or what have you. In fact, it sounds alarmingly similar to the constant rhetoric being put forth by the current administration, or its Republican counterparts. And if you listen closely to Hillary Clinton, you hear it there too. It's almost undebatable. There's almost no difference between the principles behind the foreign policy that Barack Obama will engage in and the current principles of the current administration. The fact that Barack Obama has said that he will, he would bomb Pakistan if he felt like it. He said that he will not hesitate to use force unilaterally if necessary. He said we must also consider using military force in circumstances beyond self-defense. Those are quotes. Those sound a lot like the things that George Bush and his administration put forth leading up to the Iraq War. If we are to believe that Barack Obama is going to really change the course of events that led to things like the Iraq War, then we cannot let him get away with the constant speeches where he deviates from these principles and these quotes that he said. He said in the New York Times in 2004 that he might have voted for the war if he had been in the U.S. Senate at the time. Where's the deviation? It sounds to me, excuse me, it very much sounds to me like Barack Obama wants to badmouth the Iraq War because it's not going very well. But the principles behind it, he sees them as fine. In fact, he's said that it was a blunder and it wasn't very and it wasn't a good idea And he often talks about American victims, but rarely, if ever, and I can't think of a single instance where he has put forth any sympathy for the plight and downright massacre of Iraqi victims of the war. This is just, a small tidbit of information, but I think these are things that Barack Obama needs to address, and I think it's things that voters need to know before they go to the polls in any primary or in the presidential campaign. Despite what the mainstream media says, and despite what he himself says, Barack Obama does not espouse anything close to leftism. And if you'll read his book and read his quotes, when he's not speaking at the Ebenezer Church, on the Sunday before Martin Luther King Day, you will find out that what he really is the same old boss, just dressed up in a different manner. Thank you very much.